Hello and welcome to this podcast from the Private Wealth team at Safri. My name's Leonora Stevens and I'm a partner in the Private Wealth team based in Bristol. I'm delighted to be joined virtually by Mike Hodges, who's the head of our Private Wealth team at Safri's. Mike is based in our Manchester office. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Leo.
Today we are talking about retirement planning. This will involve what sort of things you should think about if you're considering retirement in the next few years, both from a tax and practical perspective. Now, of course, Mike and I have got quite a few years until retirement, but there are a few topics that we raise with clients, whether they are employees who are ceasing employment upon retirement, or those who have built up their businesses and are looking to sell, gift it, or just trying to get some liquidity out of it before they retire. So, Mike, what sort of questions would you raise with clients who are considering retirement?
Well, first off, Leo, I heard you nearly laugh when you said we're a few years off retirement, because clearly I am much, much, much closer than you are. But you kept a straight face just about. So thank you for putting me in the same camp as you in terms of retirement dates. I think the first thing is everyone should be considering retirement, because it's a bit of a cliche, but you can't start too early. Although I have a little story, I like my little stories, as you know, of someone I trained with many, many, many years ago. And I think if I gave you the dates, that would tell you how close I am to retirement. But this lad from first payslip was putting money into his pension. The lesson there was he then spectacularly failed his professional exams, so was gone within 12 months. So you can go a bit too early or get your priorities slightly wrong. You have to, get a balance of everything. But it's genuinely relevant to everyone at whatever stage of their lives. And I guess for you and me, it's more a case of people who are slightly closer to retirement than this trainee chartered accountant I was working with all those years ago. And then people will have a whole mixture of different thoughts about retirement and what they're going to do or not do. And we'll cover some of those in the rest of this conversation.
You're talking about never starting too early. Something that I do often talk with clients about is about setting up a stakeholder pension for their children, where you can put 2,880 into a pension, which is then grossed up to 3,600. And apparently, I think the stat is that if you put that in from 0 to 18, at the time they reach their pensionable age, which who knows what age will be there by the time they get there. But it's you can have up to £1 million worth of investment there, which is a big sum of money for what seems like a little input at a young age.
That's certainly what they say, and you've kept their hands off it, so you've provided for their long term. They might not thank you in the moment, but longer term they will be grateful.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, for me, if I've got a client coming to me talking about pensions about retirement, it's all, again, the big thing we always say is about what are your objectives, what are you trying to achieve, what do you want to do with your money when you retire? When some people will think they've got lots of time on their hands, when actually most people tend to be more busy once they've retired than they were when they were busy doing their day job.
Definitely. Just going to say, I think with our clients, the tricky bit is, as I say, there's no one right and wrong answer, and they've got a whole mix. And a lot of them, potentially slightly dangerously, are saying, well, the business is my retirement pot. And you and I clearly don't give financial planning advice, but the one thing I do say to clients is, I just know that no investment advisor could say have all of your wealth tied up in one private company, because you don't see the risk from day to day. But that must be a high risk strategy in an investment way. So don't rely on being able to control the timing and the value of your business on a sale, so that takes over from any other pension consideration. Have a mix of different pots that you can call on, because that way you're not exposed and you haven't got all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah, good point. I think, also, if you've got, I think you can split it into two different categories. You've got people who are, let's say, an investment banker who's been working in the city for 20, 30 years and is about to retire. So can just get their P45 and they're done, and then they start taking their pension. Then you've got the other one who's built their business and wants to take their liquidity out. And I suppose if you're looking at the latter part, those who have got their built up their businesses, the question is, do they want to sell? Do they want to give it to a child? And if they were to give it to a child, there's sort of tax benefits of sort of giving business assets away. But then that's great, but where are you getting your liquidity from and your funding for your retirement?
Yep.
Something if you decide to sell your business, There's obviously business asset disposal relief to think about there. But, you know, I've had clients where they've sold their business, they're in their sort of mid-60s, and they go from having had a really IHT friendly asset being shares in their business to then having a stack of cash and thinking, oh, I've now got a huge inheritance tax liability.
Yep.
What do we do about that? And my first go-to with that would normally be speaking to a financial advisor, well, the client would, to ascertain how much of that money do they actually need to enjoy the rest of their lives, and then do they want to give away that cash at that point, or do they want to start thinking about investing in IHT friendly assets, whether that's sort of AIM listed portfolio, or do they want to start farming actively, or, you know, again, it goes back to what's the objective there. But those are sort of I think those are things that they need to keep in mind, depending on what the outcome what they want to get to.
Definitely. And I was telling you the story the other day of a client of mine many years ago, and he had partly sold his business to his daughter. And that's a good point. I would say you don't have to give it away, because you've worked hard to build the business, and it may be that you therefore don't give it, but you sell it, and you can arrange the terms to make it affordable so that you're not passing the business on with a huge amount of debt. But he was then, month by month, just accumulating cash. He couldn't spend it fast enough. And that's one of the other things I say to people when they're doing their planning. You will get to a point where the sort of luxury foreign holiday is no longer attractive. Your life sort of gets more modest. So don't think you necessarily need all of that money until your dying day. And my advice to him was, actually, it might be sensible from a business property relief IHT point of view to reinvest in the business. You'd have to survive 2 years, but you could afford for that investment to fall by 40% and still be sort of net as well off. So sometimes you're right, that the cash versus BPR investment becomes a slightly interesting proposition to plan for.
Yeah, I think the sort of obviously that in that example you had someone who's generating a lot of cash, which whether it's sort of from an income perspective, but something I often speak to sort of clients who are in their tends to be they're in the midst of their career, they're earning the big bucks, and you raise the topic of inheritance tax, at which point they sort of say, well, I'm only in my 40s, I don't really need to think about that. They've probably got 3 or 4 kids at private school, so they've got school fees going out, but they're at the stage when they have huge amounts of surplus income potentially, where you can make the really useful gifts out of surplus income, which is exempt from inheritance tax. But then when sometimes they then move from having been employed for years to being retired, depending on their pension level and their outgoing, they might actually not have that surplus income anymore.
Yep.
So they go from a position where they can do little and often to make some really good IHT moves as well, to going to a position where actually they're needing all their income, and it might be that their assets are then in capital, and that's the growth is what they're living off. So again, these things are always good with anything, whether you're moving abroad or whether you're retiring. It's always good to start thinking about it earlier on. Yep. And get that ball moving so that you can make use of all these little tips and tricks along the way, just to make things more efficient, really.
No, definitely.
Would you say with clients, so now the retirement has changed slightly now from where potentially 20, 30 years ago, when there was the less technology and pre-COVID, would you say that people sort of, there's no real stop date? Have you seen people tend to carry on?
Yes, definitely, because you can do it. I met someone I signed up as a client within the last 3 weeks or so, and he barely goes into the office. He says he goes into the office once a month maximum. He can do everything from home. He said his wife would say that he works 7 days a week, but actually it's an hour maximum a day dealing with a few emails. So yeah, there's huge flexibility. And I think the instinct of a lot of our clients is not to have a guillotine retirement date that comes in. They keep going, and as I think you said earlier on, they're as busy or busier post retirement than they were when they were full on working. So no, the world is changing a lot, and I think that's good. There's room for us oldies, Leo.
Yeah, I hope you're not counting me as the oldie when you say us.
No, so absolutely not. No, me oldie.
Are there any other sort of top tips you think about that people should consider before they think about retiring?
No, do your own thing. Be comfortable with what you're doing. Have a plan, because I think that does work. Have a plan that you share with your family and your loved ones, because that's better than keeping it all to yourself. But no, do what you're comfortable with. So I had a client, and I'd done various transactions with him over the years. He'd been in business for many years, and he finally sold out handful of years ago and finally retired on the 30th of November. So we're recording this on the 6th of December. So a week ago, I messaged him on the 1st of December and said, happy retirement. But he's already got another business idea, which he and a bunch of friends are looking at doing. He said they're all cigar smokers, and I don't condone smoking for a minute, clearly. But between them, they want to create a cigar brand. And so, new business, even as he's going into retirement, which is great. And he'll spend some of his time abroad, some in the UK. Again, you can be completely flexible. So I would say embrace it. It keeps your brain active. If these are people who've been active all through their working lives, then they'll have a great retirement, but they won't stop all of a sudden, and they'll carry on. So no, all power to them.
I think also when we're saying about planning, I mean, I think some of this strays into what a financial planner would go through with you. And obviously we don't give financial advice, but things like with the pension, the more you put away from an early age, I mean, retirement and pensions aren't things that you should just start thinking about when you hit 50. That the more you put away, much like I say, the stakeholder pension, if you can put away as much as you can from a younger age, the growth on that will be astonishing if you think about it over a 30-40 year period.
Yes. Yeah,
so
no, absolutely.
make the most of that where you can.
And you are then creating more options for yourself when you reach retirement age, however we define that now. So you've got some flexibility. So you're not dependent on selling the business to fund your retirement, because you've got 2 or 3 others. You've got a pension fund, you've got investments that sit outside the business. So it's all about flexibility and never too young to start. And you're right, we don't give the financial advice, but we will do the tax bit that goes alongside that. So that they're hand in glove to me.
Yeah, and I suppose also it's, a bit on what you said, not having all your eggs in one basket, to give you those options when it comes to retirement, that you can plan or fulfill the objectives that you're seeking to meet.
Yeah.
Any other final comments, Mike?
I don't think so. I was going to ask you a question about, you talked about people retiring sitting on cash. Is there anything else you'd think about for that?
Well, only I think what I mentioned earlier is the cash flow modelling to work out whether they need it, and then assets like the AIM shares or anything that would qualify for business property relief. Or in your example, investing back in the business. But as there is that two-year period, so you must you must consider that in advance to mitigate your IHT position. I mean, IHT isn't the driver for everybody, so
no.
It's as I said at the beginning, all about objectives. Well, thank you anyway for joining me today. We work with a wide range of clients. Many are UK based and many live overseas but have interests here, whether that's property, business interests or investments. We advise individuals and families on how best to safeguard, maintain and enhance their wealth, and on the most appropriate methods of passing that wealth on to the next generation. We also help people comply with the tax rules in the UK, which can be complex. If you'd like to find out more about the services we can offer at Safri, please visit our website at www.safri.com. However, it's important for me to stress that if you're considering any of the topics discussed today, you must always take professional advice based on your individual circumstances. Thank you for listening.